opened his mouth, but not much came out, as is always the case with us football managers. That's how it should be.
It's to do with the questions, Roy.
Maybe. The better the questions, the more clever you've got to be of opening your mouth and saying nothing. That's the trick, isn't it? Right.
Okay, great. Should we start, Gary?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Hello, Roy. Thanks for your time.
Gary?
Any injury concerns at all, or new injury concerns?
There's a couple of players that we'll assess in the morning, largely due to today's session, but I think they'll probably be okay. The two that are missing are Mamadou Sakho and Connor Wickham. Otherwise, we're okay.
And with Mam, it's not looking any more likely that it's going to be back soon, or no update on?
I hope it's going to be soon. He's been out since February, basically. If we ignore the couple of games that he was able to play for us before breaking down again. So, it's high time really that we get him back, and he's working very hard to come back. So I hope it's soon rather than late, but I can't put a time on it.
So a team that's 2 points above you in the table, coming to a packed Selhurst Park, they need to be worried, don't they?
I don't know about what. I don't know that Pep needs to be worried about any team that he faces, but it would be nice if they felt they need to show us some respect, and certainly for us it's a good day when you have teams like Manchester City with all their quality coming to Selhurst Park, and we know we're going to be stretched to the limit to give them the type of game we'd like to give them, but it's a challenge, and it's an exciting challenge, and all of our players certainly are very much up for that challenge.
2 points behind City, point behind Arsenal, same points as Chelsea, 3 points above Spurs. How proud are you a quarter of the way through the season with that fact?
Well, it's been a good start, but I mean, like all teams who at the moment are congratulating themselves or basking, if you like, in the glory of having had a good start and got a few points on the board, we're fully aware that can change very quickly, and the only time we would really be happy to sort of take any credit for it is if it lasts until the end of the season. But there's an awful lot of football to be played before that, but you can only do what you can do with the games that are put in front of you, and in the 8 games so far, 14 points is a good haul of points, but we face a tough period of games coming up now, so we're going to be hard stretched, if you like, to keep that level of points going.
Yeah, you spoke about the period coming up. It's like a horror period, really, isn't it? All the top 5, but you're 6th. So does that make it less of a concern? Can you go into those games with more confidence?
I think that you can go into the games without really having that sort of feeling of a knife at your throat in terms of the relegation zone, because you do have a little bit of a cushion. No one can take those points away from you. But you're going to get periods like this during the course of the season, and the fact is that you're going to play all of the top teams in the country twice during the course of the season. It's nice sometimes it's spaced out, so there's something in between, but every now and again you get a spell like this one. But it's up to us to produce the level of football that we think we can produce, and to keep fighting for every point that's on offer.
It's great then the fans forums and social media are all positive. Crystal Palace fans obviously a lot to be positive about at the moment, but is there a danger of them maybe getting carried away?
Well, you shouldn't stop that, should you? You shouldn't stop people getting carried. You shouldn't stop them enjoying moments. I think we've got a very loyal fan group who are excellent supporters both home and away, and I think they've followed Palace, most of them, for many years, and they're used to the ups and downs. But I certainly wouldn't begrudge them at the moment if they're starting to dream and starting to think that this team can take them even further. But obviously I think that they understand where we are. They understand the limitations that we have in terms of our squad and the size of our squad. So as long as I can count on that, and I certainly don't begrudge them the good feeling at the moment and the enjoyment they get, if you like, from being above teams that they're normally way below.
You've spoken there about the squad, and obviously there's still 2.5 months to go before you get the opportunity to see if you can get anything that you think you need. But if you are still doing well, does that make it harder to persuade the money men to splash out?
No, I don't think so, because I think that everyone is on the same page in that respect. I think the owners of the club, when Steve Parish in particular, who I have most dealings with, he's fully aware of where our gaps are and what needs to be done, and that's been the case for a period of time now. So I don't really fear that. It all boils down, I suppose, at the end, when January comes around, is there money to spend? And I'm hoping there will be. And then, of course, even more importantly, can we find the players to spend it on that we think are the right people? Because, we've been quite frugal in that respect, but at least the players we brought in have been of value and luckily haven't cost us lots of money at the moment. And, I am wary of spending other people's money if I'm not certain the person that's being bought is going to prove to be value for money.
Talking about players and contracts, obviously two have been agreed this week, particularly on Christian. It's a difficult answer, I know, but has he deserved a new contract, or is it just a piece of housekeeping because obviously he might be coveted elsewhere and you wouldn't want to lose him for nothing?
I don't think you allow centre forwards contracts to run out, and certainly not centre forwards like Christian Benteke with his CV, with the quality that he has, and with the potential that he has. Obviously, he's been disappointed, like we all have, that he hasn't scored the goals in these last couple of seasons that we, the fans, and in particular himself, don't forget, because he works very hard every day, and it's certainly not for want of trying that the ball hasn't gone into the net for him. So I'm pleased that the club has seen their way to renewing, if you like, their confidence in him, and I fully understand how important that is to the club, because it would be very disappointing to see him find that form for somebody else, and we've allowed him to leave on a free transfer. And of course James Tompkins is another player who's done brilliantly for us. Unluckily got injured in March, but he's now back to fitness, and I'm very pleased that the club have tied him up for a further couple of years after this season ends, because he has been a very important player, if you like, in the results we've been able to get these last two seasons.
I wonder if I could just ask you a couple wearing hats from previous roles. All the touchlines you've stood on during games, is the biggest rivalry you've ever experienced the Manchester-Liverpool derby?
Well, Inter Milan was pretty big as well,
right.
To be fair, but I suppose after Inter Milan, in terms of European and worldwide prestige, without a shadow of a doubt. But there have been other, rivalries which have surprised me, not least of all ours with Brighton, and certainly not least of all West Bromwich Albion's with Wolves, because they're rivalries and derbies and fierce derbies that really outside of the area you might not realise exist. But I think Liverpool, Man United's right up there with the top derbies in the world.
And taking nothing away from your result against United, has the gloss been taken off the fixture a little bit because of United's current problems?
I wouldn't think so, no, because the fact is the rivalry between those two clubs and their fans goes back much further than season per season, and for Manchester United they're always going to want to try and put one over on Liverpool, and vice versa, Liverpool or Manchester United. And I think for fans of those two clubs it's a massive occasion, and always will be, irrespective of where the teams find themselves in the league.
Bulgaria in the week, a lot of people thought that the England lads should have walked off the pitch. What would have been your advice to them had you still been in that?
I thought they were brilliant. I thought that the players, the coaching staff, the people at the FA did everything right. I don't know anything particular would have been gained in them walking off the pitch. I don't think there would have been any more coverage, any more criticism, if you like, of the Bulgarians for the racist abuse the players suffered. I don't know coming off the pitch would have changed that at all. And furthermore, as I've heard many people say, and obviously agree with, when people are trying to upset you in that way by racially abusing you, you can't really get a better answer in some ways than to beat them comprehensively like England did. So I don't agree with that it would have been better had they come off, and I don't think there'd have been any more publicity than there's been, or any more praise for England and the way they handled it than there's been. And I can only add my word of praise, if you like, alongside so many others. I thought they were quite brilliant.
Thanks, Roy.
Pleasure.
Excellent. James from Talksport.
Roy, as has been mentioned, you've got a tricky 4 games leading up to the next international break. Have you got a vision in your head about how many points you're hoping to get out of this period?
It depends what you mean by vision. If you talk about when I go to bed and dream at night, we're going to get 12, but I don't think we will. No, and if you mean by vision, how many points am I calculating? I don't calculate points. It is game per game, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all one can do is prepare as best one can and help the players prepare as best they can for the game ahead of them. And it's no point whatsoever in thinking about what might happen in 2 or 3 weeks' time. It's really a question of bridges and crossing them when you come to them.
Jordan's got 3 goals in the league already this season. Is he the sort of striker, because he's not always been that prolific in the past, but is he someone that you think can maybe score 15 goals a season for this club?
Yes, I'd like to think so. I mean, and I'm pretty certain that he thinks he can, and I'm also certain that Christian Benteke believes he's got a lot more goals to give the club, as does Wilf Zaha. So we're not short of players who can score goals for us, but the fact is, winning games is a balance, and fortunately we have been able to defend quite solidly, and as a result have got our points without having to score many goals so far. But as we proved towards the end of last season, the goals are there, so just a question of when the faucet is turned on.
We saw Raheem Sterling score 2 more goals against Bulgaria on Monday. You gave him his debut for England. What's most impressed you about how he's furthered his game since you worked with him?
Oh, well, it is the goal scoring, of course. I mean, he was always a fantastic dribbler. He was always a very, very hard worker. Made good runs most of the time as well. In fact, I remember when he played for us in Switzerland in that position in behind the front players, as he was doing for Liverpool at the time, and he was quite outstanding. But the criticism that could be levelled at him then, and often was, much to my displeasure, because I would see him playing well and growing in confidence, only to see that battered by the sort of attention he was getting elsewhere from social media and sometimes the media itself, which was draining his confidence. I think the big things for Raheem is that now there is no drain on his confidence. There is no doubts, and I never had doubts about his ability. You know, that has now been accepted largely by everybody. And of course he's playing in a team that creates lots of chances, so when he gets into the right areas he's able to score goals from it. And on his subject too, I must add, I think his maturity as a person has been really fascinating to watch in terms of all the responsibility he's accepted, not just as a Man City player needing to score goals and play brilliantly every week to keep his place in the team, but also shouldering a very heavy burden, I find, with the racism and the attention that's being paid quite rightly to this racist problem that we have. I think he's been an absolutely brilliant spokesman, so I can heap praise on him in the hope that he will repay me by playing very badly tomorrow.
Just finally from me, I spoke with Ray Lewington about an hour or so ago, and he said that he thinks you can keep going as a manager for another 5 to 10 years. Is that something you go along with? 5 to 10 years? He doesn't know how old I am, does he?
He thinks I'm younger than I am, I think, Raymond, but I can carry on, there's no doubt about that, if that's the right thing to do. But of course I'll have to be convinced when the time comes that it is the right thing to do, and it's something which I can really contribute to, and something which is going to give me the sort of satisfaction that the last couple of seasons here has done. So I'm just at the moment in that situation, quite comfortably waiting to see what transpires. But I'm not prepared to put a date on the day when I'm going to say the football's been great to me and now I'll move aside and let someone else have a go. I suppose you could argue if you've had such a long run, you perhaps should be prepared to move aside and let someone else have a go. But selfishly, I still feel I can do it, I still enjoy it, I still get so much pleasure out of the job that I won't walk away willingly, I don't think.
Great, that's the end of the broadcast section.
Brilliant.
Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much.
much.